Well, hello again. Welcome to another edition of CropLife Retail Week. Paul Schrimpf here with Eric Sfiligoj. How you doing, sir?
I am fine, Mr. Paul, trying to stay warm. I know we're getting a little bit of a cold snap here in Ohio. I don't know if it's a polar vortex, but it certainly seems like, I saw forecast highs of like in the single digits coming this weekend. So while we're watching the Super Bowl from sunny Florida, or at least warm Florida here in Ohio, we're going to be a little chilly. So.
Yeah, my son was harassing me about that about a week and a half ago, saying this is on the way. And, we haven't had one yet. So, we've been in the 30s, upper 20s pretty much for the most
Right.
part. Now it's down into the dumper with where some of the other places are. Of course, we aren't getting the snow, so that's good. We're not, the ground is, every time it comes along, it melts again, which is wonderful. It looks like we'll get a nice little melt tomorrow before we get, or this week before we get into the hellacious cold. But yeah, we've been lucky so far. So while we will still complain, we really shouldn't be.
Yeah, and actually, we're recording this just past the Groundhog Day, and I'm not quite sure what to think because I heard that Punxsutawney Phil in Pennsylvania did see his shadow, so we're going to get 6 more weeks of winter. However, I heard Buckeye Chuck, our groundhog here in Ohio, did not see his shadow. So according to the Ohio groundhog, we got spring early heading our way. So I'm going to tend to believe the Ohio groundhog. Just call me a hometown rooter here. So I'm going with Buckeye Chuck. So
I got a better idea. Let's have a series of cage matches with all the state-based groundhogs, and then whichever one wins, they fight to the death. Whichever one survives, that's the one who gets the call that year. How about that?
That sounds like fun, Paul. Well, speaking of groundhog, I did my own segue here
How did I segue that?
If you're a fan of Groundhog Day, of course, if you may have seen the movie that starred Bill Murray, where basically Bill had to relive Groundhog Day over and over and over and over. This might sound a little Groundhog Day-ish, but one of the tidbits I have this week, Paul, ties back to something we just talked about last week's video when we had mentioned the another trade show coming off the calendar because of COVID, that being the National Farm Machinery Show that had originally decided they were going to try to do a end of March timing, and now have decided, nope, we're just going to call it a year and resume in 2022. Well, after we did that report, I heard from our sister publication, Cotton Grower, and our editor over there informed me that the Gin Show, which normally takes place in early March in Memphis, Tennessee, has now decided, because of COVID concerns and gathering in person concerns, that in 2021 they're going to do a virtual event. So Groundhog Day all over again, Paul. It seems like there will not be any trade shows on the calendar at this point for the front half of 2021. So we're going to have to watch what happens come July, I guess.
That's too bad. I used to love going to that show, and the time I managed the cotton group and get the cotton market kind of all over me, find out what's going on. And of course, barbecue nachos and Corkies and all that good stuff we get to eat while we're there. But I guess you have to go get your Corkies yourself now.
Yes, if you can get there, and I'm sure they will deliver. I mean, everybody is delivering, and pick up curbside is very common for restaurants. So, and I guess, Paul, continuing this theme of, oh, you've heard this before. Stop me if you've heard this before. China is in the news again this week. We found out this week that, the Chinese have been on a buying spree when it comes to U.S. crops. And I guess the last week of January, China purchased 6 million metric tons of U.S. corn, which was one of the largest purchases that the country has ever made, period. And they followed that up the first week here in February with another 2 million metric tons of corn purchased. So as you might imagine, all this corn leaving U.S. shores and heading to China has spurred prices. They're up another 7 cents per bushel as of this morning to $5.43 for corn. So Again, Paul, good news for our friends in the agricultural market and anybody who had corn to sell, because China is a buying.
Yeah, everyone I've talked to, and I've been doing a lot of calls, I know you have too, in the market, trying to, just talking to folks about what's going on, and the optimism is, running remarkably high. I mean, we're not used to this compared to the last 3 years, but optimism going into 21 is not bad.
Nope, not at all. So then I do have some new news to share.
Yes.
Now, how many people out there in our viewer land have been following this GameStop buying spree that has been taking place with our friends on Wall Street? Raise your hands now. And okay, a couple of people I can kind of see, I'm doing the Mr. Rogers thing through the camera here, but anyhow, Paul, while that was all going on and that was getting all the press, we found out that I guess some investment is now taking place in agriculture as well. Our friends at Verdesian Life Sciences have now been acquired by an investment group out of New York City called AEA Investors. So I know that the folks were speculating that as economic conditions improved in 2021, that some investment would start coming into agriculture again from the folks on Wall Street. And it looks like that is now starting to take place, at least with this one deal. And you could probably expect more as the year goes on.
Absolutely. Agriculture is usually seen as that safe bet for, people got to eat and all that. So, and not that surprising, I suppose.
No. So I've been monopolizing all the time on the video. So how about I toss this little in honor of the Super Bowl, let me toss the pigskin your way and let's see what you have to share with our folks out there.
Well, it's been an interesting week. It's that week where we spend a lot of time kind of gathering information, as for our stories. So, been talking a lot about nutrient management and nitrogen, and it's interesting in how much trouble it still is, how difficult it still is to really effectively manage nutrients in a consistent way. And we're talking about, again, we're going into the cycle of putting together sessions for Tech Hub Live, our new conference, and trying to find the education level on nitrogen specifically and nutrients in general that really hits every sweet spot. And there's a little difference, if not a lot difference, between regions, between growers and practices and so forth. And you start really appreciating those differences once you start talking to people. But I think the one thing that we're finding is a little bit common is that there's a general agreement that the information that's coming from the field that we're getting from machinery and sensors, from imagery and other areas is getting better. I mean, the algorithms as in some of these systems will continue to get better as that data improves, and the data is improving. This whole trend toward an investment in technology that's really getting at the in-season decision making as opposed to year-over-year learning. I mean, we're trying to the investments really and the efforts really pushing into the in-season. So I think we'll see a lot more. I think we'll have meatier stories when it comes to scouting technology discussions, when it comes to nitrogen management from a standpoint of making decisions in the field on the go and not waiting or not having to wait. All that stuff it fascinates me because we're really, as we see that change in investment dollars, that'll change the types of companies that come in, the types of technologies that roll out. So that's kind of what we're seeing in a nutshell. We'll get more into that in the stories we get into the March issue, but that the last week or so of interviews certainly been eye-opening.
I'll look forward to seeing all that stuff here in the next month as we get some issues out into the mail. And I guess the mail is working a little better, by the way. I know that my credit card company finally cashed the check I sent them back in mid-December, about a week ago. So I'm back up to date on that.
Yes, and we had a backup of gas bills and threatened to shut off the gas despite the what they of course we're not exactly I talk about technology and electronics, but we still do a lot of paper billing. So you know, they always use that as a way to say, well, you know, if you just electronic pay,
Yeah, I know.
you have to worry about this. It's like, well, what if we don't want to?
I was going to say, some of us are just old fashioned. I actually sort of get a little bit of a feeling of satisfaction physically writing out a check and mailing it off. For some reason, that fills me with an inner peace. I guess I'm old fashioned. What can I say?
Or you're just old.
Or old. Yes, fine. Just stop the sentence after the word old. So, Paul, before we go, just since it's that week, Super Bowl weekend, I know across the country, of course, I'm sure folks were virtually taking bets on who they thought were going to win the Super Bowl. So since we're going to be airing this video the day before the big game, I'm going to put you on the spot after I make my prediction for the game. And I'm thinking, you know what? It's taking place in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is playing in the big game. They've got Tom Brady, who's been there 10 times now. I think the Buccaneers may actually pull this one off. So given that they're getting 3 points, I think I would take them and the points. How about you?
I generally lean toward that, but I'll tell you, you know, Mahomes is pretty amazing. So, you know, I think ultimately I will lean toward Kansas City. And if actually Kansas City skunks them, you could make a case that the Browns are the second best team in the league because we gave them a run for their money. And
that's true.
No one else did. So there you go.
All right. Well, we'll be able to see which one of us will hang their head in shame and which one will be able to raise their arms in triumph come next week's video. So everyone watch for that little tidbit. I'm sure it'll be joyful.
Well, if my friend Darren Johnson is out there watching, and he's a big KC fan, and he's been in PR and marketing in ag for a long time, if KC wins, I want a hat. And if I get that hat, I will wear it on the video. So, sir, if you are watching, or if you know Darren and you want him, make him watch this. So I get my hat if we win.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, that's enough for this edition of CropLife Retail Week. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you next week.
If you have questions or comments about today's episode of Retail Week, contact us by email or Twitter, or type your message in the comment section below.
Your feedback is important to us. We'll try our best to address your thoughts in next week's episode.
And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.